All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting will begin in just one moment. Thank you for being here. All right, the time is now 8:01. Welcome to the February 19th, 2025 edition of the meeting of the Town of Forest Heights Mayor and Council. This meeting will now come to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Noble,
Here.
Councilmember Hines, Councilmember Kennedy,
Here.
Councilmember Brownson,
Here.
Councilmember Little,
Present.
Councilmember McDonald, Mayor Lilly,
Present.
and I'm just going to go back. Councilmember McDonald. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, next we will have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2025. These meeting minutes were distributed to the council in advance via email. Are there any changes or additions to the meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2025? Okay, hearing none, the meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2025 are approved. Next, we'll move to our consent agenda. We have one item under the consent agenda this evening, Resolution 6-25. Are there any members of the council who wish to pull this item for further discussion at this time?
Go
ahead.
Councilmember Brownson.
Yeah, I have one question. Let me find it. It's on page.
Well, if you have a question on it and you'd like to pull it for a discussion, we can do that. If it's a question you feel like can be answered briefly, I'll take it now.
Okay. We can discuss it.
Okay, so we will pull this item if all members, well, we'll pull this item and we'll add it to the main agenda. So what we'll do at this time is let's move to our main agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to amend the agenda, moving Resolution 06-25 under the items in legislation for today. Would you like to offer the motion, Councilmember Brownson?
I'd like to make a motion to offer resolution 06-25 and move it to the main, take it out of the consent agenda and moving it to the main agenda.
Okay. So we will do so. Now, I move that we adopt the main agenda with the change of the item under consent being moved to legislation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's agenda as amended, moving the item under consent into the main portions of legislation. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Next, we'll move into council member and mayor reports. And we'll begin in Ward 1. I don't see Council President McDonald on yet, so we'll start with Council Member Little from Ward 1.
Good evening. I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Little. We'll go to Ward 2, and we'll start with Councilmember Brownson.
Okay, I want to report that I went to the town hall for District 20 for Delegate Councilperson Burrows at the Bach Road last Saturday, not this Saturday, but Saturday, and it was very informative. You know, they called out the community by, you know, towns and so when they called out, you know, Fort Washington, they had a host of people there, a majority of the room of Fort Washington. But when they called out Forest Heights, there was only one person that stood up and said, woo, 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 but there were 3 members of Forest Heights there. So I just want to encourage people that the town residents, when we have, when there's an opportunity to go out to the town halls and listen to District 26 and talk about Forest Heights and offer suggestions and let them know that we're present and we want some of that, some of the things that they're fighting for, and we're willing to stand with them and fight for those that we, you know, try to participate, because it really shows. It's almost like the crowd, whoever's in the majority probably going to get the attention, and the silent person probably is not going to get any attention. So we can't be silent when we have opportunity to go out and represent our municipality and speak up for some of the things that we need in the town. And that's my 2 cents.
Mayor, you're muted.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Brownson. Next, we'll go to Councilmember Kennedy.
I don't have a lot to say. You know, I just want to commend the staff of the town for taking care of the business, whether it was dealing with snow. You know, it's not just public works, but, you know, police, admin, everyone, the silent people behind the scenes. But, you know, I definitely want to not take away from public works. They've done a phenomenal job of making sure the roads were clear. But I do have one question, that if we can get it resolved. You know, I think somebody forgot to pay the heat bill. I came back from tropical weathers to this 30-some degree weather, which is not all that great. But one of the, looks like the communication lines on Sumner was hanging lower. So I appreciate the cones being put out. But the line has not technically been fixed yet. It looks like somebody came out and looped it around another wire, which is not the correct way to fix something. So if we can escalate that and find out which department, whether it's Verizon, Comcast, whoever has to come out and fix it correctly, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Next, we'll go to Ward 3, and we'll go to Councilmember Paula Noble.
Thank you. Good evening, all. This is February, and I want to say again, I want to call out Sue E. McGinnis, the town's first elected African-American woman, a mayor. And I didn't think I would be calling it out so often, but I guess I need to, because I promised her that. I had a question for our April 26th. I know it's early yet, but for April 26th, when we have our ribbon cutting for the trail, since it's Earth Day as well, can we include, if the budget allows, a shredder for the community, since we're cleaning up? And then we had at Cree and Seneca, the water is it's not like it's flooded, but it's just right at that corner of Cree and Seneca. So if someone could check, I don't think it's a drain there, but it's just standing water there. And today we had a meeting, I had a meeting with MML about the If I Were Mayor. The contest ends March 7th. So if you have any fourth graders out there, let's encourage them to write their essays so that we can get some representation from the town of Forest Heights, since we have a mayor here. And if they need to speak with the mayor, I'm quite sure he will be willing to talk to them. And also, dementia friendly, along with the Forest Heights Police Department, we're going to have a self-defense class on Saturday, March 29th at 11 a.m. in the town hall. So that'll be repeated, and hopefully we'll get it posted in the newsletter in time for people to sign up. I think that's it for me for now. Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble, for your updates, and other council members. Am I able to share, Mr. Saunders? There we go. I'm going to share a report here. Okay, so for February 19, 2025, these are just some updates from what we've worked on in the last couple of weeks since our last meeting. This evening, the council earlier this evening held the first of our first round interviews for town administrator. We'll also hold the second day of the first round interviews on Friday, February 21st. So in the first round, we are looking to identify the top candidates, and those people will be brought for a second interview, which is scheduled to happen later this month. The date will be determined once all the interviews are done. Then also to Councilmember Brownson's point, the MGM Local Impact Grant funding for the Forest Heights Police Department summer camp and other programs within the town of Forest Heights, that hearing was held yesterday at the county's building. I was able to testify in support of that plan. Councilmember Noble and Brownson and myself attended the community meeting a couple Saturdays ago discussing the details of the plan. The county council passed the plan yesterday after their hearings. And so the next steps are that for this year's programs, we're looking at partnering with Forest Heights Elementary to expand the program so we have more space and the youth are able to take advantage of more recreational opportunities. And it will also hopefully free up the town building for its regular meetings and other uses that happen. We've also renewing our partnership with the JTCC, the Junior Tennis Champions Center, and hope to expand it this year to offer more programming on site in Forest Heights. Between the last meeting and this meeting, we were able to get around to some of our state and county representatives to present them with a little piece of Forest Heights, since we are the only municipality in both the state legislative district for District 26 and also for the county legislative District 8. And these are just some of the photos with our different representatives. Some of the staff members and myself had a grant funding meeting related to a Maryland Department of Transportation grant. The town was awarded $100,000 in the state's legislation last year. And so in order to receive the funds for traffic management improvements, we've got to do a grant agreement, which is submitted to MDOT for approval. But before it goes for approval, our staff has just worked with MDOT to make sure that we know what items can be included. We'll bring that to council to approve if the grant is successful. And at this time, after the report is done, I'd like to open it up for any council recommendations on where we could possibly do some traffic management projects. The way that the grant works is it tends to be broad on what we can include, but it needs to address traffic management. So it's not as broad as road repaving. It has to be something that's going to deal with and alleviate the managed flow of traffic, whether it's pedestrian safety or vehicular safety. Was able to visit Forest Heights Elementary a couple Fridays ago to promote the If I Were Mayor fourth grade essay contest. We had a really, really great reception from some of the kids in that class. And so I think we have some future council members and young people who are looking to do big things in the future. So thanks to Forest Heights for giving me some time to come in and talk to the kids. Here's the information for those who are at home watching. If you have a fourth grader who's in one of the schools, they can write a 275-word essay about what they would do as the mayor. And there'll be 2 winners that are selected statewide. They'll get a governor's citation, a cash prize, and typically they take the winners to the State House to visit some of the governor and his staff. The deadline is Friday, March 7th, as Councilmember Noble pointed out. And if you want to get more information about the essay contest, here's the link, mdmunicipal.org/mayors-essay-contest. A couple Fridays ago, I also got a chance to visit Tanger Outlets. They had a Lunar New Year event that they invited me to at the last minute. And the image that you see is actually, what I'm holding is, they had a special artist who was writing out things in a different language. I believe it's Mandarin. And that actually says Forest Heights. So we have a copy of that, and we'll be placing that in the town building as a bit of Forest Heights pride. The other thing I'd mention is that Tanger actually has a grant program that they open up every year, August through October. And so this year we'll be inviting Forest Heights Elementary and some of our high schools and other schools to apply for funding with that grant, which is open every year. In our last meeting, we talked about some of the bills that are in the House and the Senate, State House and Senate, around speed monitoring on Maryland 210 Indian Head Highway. Since then, we submitted a letter of support for both bills. Our lobbyist Greenwell is entering those letters of support once the portals for those hearings open up today. So we'll watch for progress and see if those bills advance, and if they eventually pass, and we'll keep you updated. This is just a list of upcoming meetings that are happening. I know there's a Ward 3 meet and greet that that Councilmember Hines and Noble are participating in. Is that still February 23rd, Councilmember Noble?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, February 23rd, 2 to 5 at the municipal building. I'll be there as well. And so we invite residents to come out so that the council members can hear from you and myself as well. Maryland Mayors Association Winter Conference starts in March. And this date is not correct. The municipal retreat with the state's attorney is not March 5th through 7th. That's actually tomorrow. So council members, if you have time tomorrow, you can show up at Oxon Hill Library from 11 until 2. State's attorney in her office will be there talking about public safety and prosecutions of crime and strategies for improving public safety around the county with partnership through municipalities. And last but not least, on March 12th, 2025, that's a Wednesday, we'll have our election for the office of mayor and 1 council seat in each of our 3 wards. Election day will take place at the Forest Heights Municipal Center, which is at 5508 Arapahoe Drive, right behind McDonald's. And you'll be able to cast your vote in person from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we invite you to come out, let your voice be heard, and influence the leadership in the direction of your town. Okay. Councilmember Noble.
Yes, Mayor, can you include, for those who cannot come out, that they can vote absentee? They can request their absentee ballot.
Yes, could I have someone, do we have someone online who can speak to the absentee ballot process just so it's communicated correctly? I don't want to say the wrong thing. Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Madam Clerk, do you have information about the absentee ballot requesting one in that process?
Yes, and so in order to request the ballot, the individual whom needs it will just need to either call the office and speak with me, just give me their name, their address. At that time, I can mail them out an application. Once I receive the application back, then the process of having a ballot sent to them will take place.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So yeah, those who are not able to attend in person, please call the town hall, the town clerk, or visit the town hall in person, or send an email so you can begin the process for obtaining an absentee ballot. Okay. Next on our agenda, we have public period. Public period is a time when the members of the public will receive 2 minutes to address the mayor and council, and you can ask questions. We may have an answer at this time, but in some circumstances, we'll need to defer to a department head and answer the question at a later time. If you speak, you must state your address and your name. At this time, is there anyone who wishes to speak during public period?
George McDermott, 143 North Huron Drive, Forest Heights, Maryland.
Good evening, Mr. McDermott. Let me just set the timer and we will go ahead and let you give your comments. All right, go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I was invited to speak tonight regarding the office of a volunteer office for ethics committee. And when I submitted my application, I specifically asked that I'd be glad to take the office, but I just needed a clarification from the town's attorney that I will not have to surrender my organic citizenship in the United States to take that office under the FISA agreement, which it's Title 22 U.S.C. Foreign Relations and Intercourse Act identifies all public servants as foreign agents, and Title 28 U.S.C. 3002 identifies the United States as and all towns, councils, and states as corporations. And I do not wish to. I would love to take the office, but it says that once you take an oath of office, you renounce your citizenship in the United States of America. Do you have any comment on that?
Not at this time, but what we'll do is we'll get a legal response to you. And our attorney's online. I'll loop him in and ask Mr. Best if you could prepare a response to Mr. McDermott's question.
Yeah, it's Title 8 USC Section 1481. It states that once an oath of office is taken, citizenship is relinquished, thus you become a foreign entity agent of the state. That means that every public office is a foreign state, including all political subdivisions, i.e. every single court and its court's personnel are considered a separate foreign agency.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. McDermott. This concludes your 2 minutes, but we'll get a response to you in the next couple of days. Thank you for your comment today.
Like I said, I'd love to take the position, but I can't afford to risk.
Oh yeah, I understand. I understand. I just do want to remind you that we have a 2-minute limit, so
Okay.
we have reached it, but
No
we'll definitely reach out to you once we have a response in the next couple of days. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I missed one of our council members in our report, so at this time I'm going to go back to Council President McDonald so she can give her report for tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the meeting. Just a few things. One is the community garden is up and available for our sharing. We had a meeting to discuss the upcoming season and what we plan to do. and wanted to let those who are interested that there are beds available, and more information about the costs and everything will be coming up in the newsletter. Did you all hear anything I said? Sorry. Okay.
Part of it.
So, sorry.
We heard everything.
Okay, so the community garden, again, we're going to be inviting persons who are interested to rent beds for the community garden. So more information will be coming out about that in the March newsletter. Then also wanted to share that I'll be participating in, it's called a Neighborhood Planning Academy, and they're offering a free training for how a plan is made. And they'll go over some different modules about economic prosperity, housing and neighborhood, transportation and mobility, and so forth. This is a Prince George's County Planning Department that's hosting this. So it starts in March. So I just wanted to share that. Also, if there's anyone who is interested in joining our green team, please reach out and let me know. We're definitely looking for persons to help us move forward with our sustainability projects and the things that we're doing to sustain our certification that we was just recognized for in the fall of last year. Also, Mayor Lilly, I'm not sure if you spoke about the trail.
No,
And
please provide an update.
okay, so there's going to be also, we're excited about the upcoming ceremony that's going to take place in April, that we will be reopening the walk trail or walk ride at Bell Acres Park. This was some work that the Maryland National Parks and Planning and Mayor Lilly and myself and council have been trying to move this forward. So it's finally coming to fruition, where we will be able to, Town of Forest Heights and its residents will be able to walk or ride in the renovated and beautifully recreated Bell Acres Park. So that's going to be coming up in April. Look out for more information about that in the newsletter as well. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald, for your updates. I'll just note that there's additional information in the chat about requesting absentee ballots, and I'm going to also let Madam Clerk, Ms. Latoya Chisholm, give an additional comment about the ballot process.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I did see that Attorney Kevin Best has put the information in chat. Thank you so much for that. And so I was just going to mention that once those absentee ballot applications have been received by our residents, that they would need to submit them back on or before March 5th of 2025. And they would need to be returned, completed absentee ballots, need to be returned before the polls close on March the 12th by 8 p.m. So I did not want to leave out those significant details. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. I would also request if those who are staff and council on the meeting, if you can turn your camera on so everyone can see your face, and we can also have a little more interaction. If you're in a place where you can do that, we'd appreciate it. Okay, next we will go into legislation. We have several resolutions for discussion and some for action this evening. And the first item under legislation is Resolution 78-24. This is a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the Town of Forest Heights, Maryland, approving the appointment of an ethics commissioner. And this resolution is in reference to Ms. Tashi Brown, a resident of the town who has been selected as one of the applicants to move forward and join the commission board for a one-year term. I move that we adopt Resolution 78-24?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 78-24. Discussion. And I will also actually provide, we have Ms. Tashi Brown on the line with us. And Councilmember Knoll, do you have a question before we go to Ms. Brown? I was going to have her do an introduction. Did you want to ask your question prior to that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yes. One, is this for consideration? And how many, I mean, we have 2 on the ethics board now, right? On the ethics committee.
Let me ask Chief Reese to chime in on the, or I'm sorry, I'll ask the clerk to chime in on the ethics committee. I believe we have 2 vacancies.
2 vacancies.
Yes. Madam Clerk, could you give us a little more information?
Yes, so right now we do have 2 vacancies that we are looking to fill at this particular time.
And I guess that goes to my second question, because my understanding, the ethics committee is comprised of 3 members, not 4. So is Doris Stevens no longer on the committee, or Monica Lawson?
Yes, ma'am. Doris Stevens is no longer on the committee. Ms. Monica Lawson remains the chair at this particular time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. At this time, I'll open the floor to Ms. Tashi Brown to just give an introduction of herself and why she's decided to join or apply for the Ethics Commission. Ms. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor Lilly, and thank you for the opportunity to serve. My name is Tashi Brown, and I think what kind of piqued my interest in joining the Ethics Committee is that I just wanted to be a part of the community. I have the experience in having over 18 years of human capital, employee relations experience, where I've helped resolve disputes, not only in the federal government, but also community-wide in DC as well. And I wanted to give back. And I thought this was a great way to do that. I know that you all are doing wonderful things in the town of Forest Heights, and I just wanted to be a part of that movement. And yeah, so I think that kind of sums it up all. I'll just say, just for consideration, I currently work for the Office of Management and Budget, where I serve as the Human Capital Director. So I know exactly what that means to be someone that's ethically bound and follows rules and procedures, but I also know what it means to build community and collaboration. And I think I could do that with the town of Forest Heights. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you for putting yourself forward. If you could just share one additional detail, could you tell us about your experience, or just tell us how long you lived in the town when you first came?
Sure. I purchased a home in 2017 here. I live at 5612 Delaware Drive. So yeah, I can't believe I'm coming up on 10 years in the town of Forest Heights. It's really that small town community feel that I honestly enjoy. And, you know, I look forward to getting to know you all better. So.
Well, thank you, Ms. Brown. We appreciate your comments and for your interest in supporting the town.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion on Resolution 78-24? Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I had a question.
Yes, Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, so from my understanding, we only have one person that's on the ethics committee now, and with Ms. Brown, that'll be 2. So we still have 1 vacancy left, or we have 2, and she'll make the 3rd one.
No, we have 1, she'll make the 2nd, and we have another resolution on the agenda for consideration, but Mr. McDermott spoke earlier about he has a question, so we may not be able to move forward with that resolution tonight until we have that question answered.
Okay, so can you have an active ethics commissioner if it's not fully staffed?
Well, that's a question I'm going to pose to Mr. Best.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. The answer is yes, just as if the council has had vacancies in the last 15 years or so that I've been town attorney, there have been vacancies in the council. Doesn't mean the council stops operating as a council. And you are required by state law to have an ethics commission. It's not a committee, it's a commission. And you should endeavor to keep it active with the full complement of commissioners. But if the commissioners fall short of the full commission, they still operate. Even if it's just one commissioner, they would still operate as a commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best.
Okay,
Okay.
so the
Thank you,
follow up
Councilman.
on,
You have a follow-up question?
yeah, so he said it operate like the council, but the council, it can't operate unless there's a quorum. So I was wondering if with the commissioner, do they have to have a majority? That was my question, because they don't operate like the council, because council can operate with a quorum even though we have vacancies.
Now, there's state statutes that call for exigent circumstances when a governing body, like the council of a town, falls to one person. So state law would kick in. There's a statute that would allow I believe that would allow, this is a very esoteric, theoretic question. I would probably want to go back and look at the statutes. But the short answer is you can have fewer than the full complement of commissioners, particularly if you do have a quorum. And I'm sure that statute doesn't apply to the Ethics Commission. It only applies to governing bodies of municipalities where they're allowed to fall below a quorum in number and they're still allowed to operate. Because the public policy purposes, you don't want to see a political subdivision of the state get in a dire strait where it can't make decisions. Mm-hmm. So if you want me to look at that with Definity, I certainly will provide a court memorandum on it. Thank you.
I trust your professional opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Brownson, and for the response, Mr. Best. If there is no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Noble,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Brownson,
Yes.
Councilmember Little,
Yes.
Councilmember McDonald,
Yes.
Mayor Lilly,
Yes.
six yeses, the motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and congratulations, Ms. Brown. Now that you have officially been appointed to the Ethics Commission, we'll invite you to our next regularly scheduled town meeting to be sworn in. And that meeting will take place on March 3rd, 2025.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone.
We look forward to your service to the town. Thank you.
May I speak? George McDermott.
Mr. McDermott, actually, you won't be able to speak at this time. We have to procedurally move into the next item. Just a moment, just a moment. We have to procedurally move into the next item on the agenda. At that time, I will be able to permit you to speak during discussion. Okay? Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is Resolution 05-25. And this is a resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Forest Heights, Maryland, approving the appointment of an ethics commissioner. And in this case, the resolution is written to appoint Mr. George McDermott. Given the fact that we've heard comments from Mr. McDermott that we need to answer additional questions for him before voting on this resolution, we're going to hold this one from being voted on tonight and discuss it only. So at this time, I will open it up for discussion. And this is for council. Is there any council members that have questions about the appointment for Mr. McDermott before I allow him to comment? Council President McDonald?
Yes, my question is the question that Mr. McDermott have, is it answerable or not? I guess I'm just trying to understand because I came in a little late trying to transition from being in person to virtual. So did I miss something?
Yeah, it will require a little of offline conversation.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Councilmember Noble.
Yes, my question, I guess, is for Mr. Best. How soon do you think we'll be able to get a response in reference to Mr. McDermott's question as it relates to this?
Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman Noble, shouldn't take long. I think the only time I've seen this type of inquiry is dealing with sovereign citizens. And quite often sovereign citizens will either appear in court or a tribunal or a government agency or body or board or commission, and they'll refute the applicability of law in some way. So I'm not sure what this is about. I don't have at my fingertips or the top of my head United States Code that was referenced. But if someone would send me a blurb of what Mr. McDermott just recited a few minutes ago, I'll look into it and give an opinion on his inquiry. It shouldn't take long. It shouldn't take more than a day or so. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Best. All right, if there's no further discussion on Resolution 05-25, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Next, we have Resolution 04-25. This is a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the Town of Forsyth Heights, Maryland, to authorize the investment of certain rainy day funds of the general fund and other non-lapsing reserve funds into two accounts of the Maryland Local Government Investment Pool. And this resolution is sponsored by sponsored by the Mayor and Council. My apologies. And this is the second reading on this resolution. I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 04-25.
I move that we adopt resolution, whatever you said.
04-25.
04-25. Thank you.
Is there a second? Is there a second for this resolution to move forward?
I second. Sorry.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 04-25. Discussion. And I'll first give a brief overview. Resolution 04-25 was presented at our February 3rd meeting. This is a resolution that seeks to allow the town to invest funds that are sitting in the town's operating fund account that are not being used. And the goal is to generate revenue by taking advantage of the state's investment pool program, which allows us to get a higher than competitive or higher than comparable rate of return on those funds. It's a little higher than the private market, and it is a state regulated pool. In the last meeting, I know there was a request to see what TD Bank could offer as it relates to rates for products that allow the cash to be invested. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Frankenfield to, if he's still online, to provide an answer on that.
Hey, good evening, all. Thanks, Mayor. Yes, we reached out to TD Bank to see what products they would offer. They came back with a CD, which we weren't interested in the CD because it doesn't have the liquidity and then also a money market fund. They didn't give us a direct rate, but the top end of their rate scale was 4%, and the product that we're offering in this legislation in front of you is currently at 4.4%. So we still stand by our recommendation that this is the best product available for the town to generate interest revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. Are there questions or discussion from council members? Councilmember Noble.
I know we talked about it in the work session with the 4.4 right now. How much more do you think? I mean, how long do you think, or do you know that what we would possibly have in a rainy day fund? I'm trying to figure out how long can it stay that we would accumulate enough interest that it makes a difference? I know every little dollar counts, but will it make a difference?
Yeah, so let me just check my math, but I assume we can average $1 million on deposit just throughout the year. So if we put $1 million on deposit at 4.4%, let me just make sure I'm getting the math right here, but I think it's 44 grand a year in interest, which, you know, I know it's not a ton of money, but it's something, right? It's half a position, essentially. Yeah, at 4.4. Now, we can't control the market, so rates go up and down. But
Right.
44 grand is what I project right now.
And that's providing that it stays there. Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So, and again, I don't know that it's in this resolution. I don't think it is, that we will be provided because the interest is compounded, what, monthly?
Every day. Every day. Yeah.
Every day?
So it's, yeah, it just generates.
So that we could include in our financial reporting some kind of report that reflects how we're acquiring or accumulating the interest.
Yep.
As one of the reporting, for me to support this request. Thank you.
Yep. Will do.
I'll just add to Councilmember Noble, thanks for your question. We do support fiscal transparency and being able to tie back the benefit of the investment, so not a problem there. Council President McDonald.
Yes, Mr. Frankenfield. So is it only, is the funds only to be used for rainy day? Or could we decide how we wanted to use the funds?
So the town has two pots of money. There's previous legislation that established a rainy day fund that was specifically $166,000. That's kind of set aside, right? So there's legislation with strings on that 166. The remainder of the town's cash, we're going to use it for operations, right? So we're going to put it over, keep as little as we can in the checking account, and then pull it back as we need it. So like January, we get $500,000 worth of property tax receipts. So we'll put all of it over there and then siphon it off as we need it through the year for payroll, operations, etc. But no, there's no strings on what we use it for outside of the 166.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Noble.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Councilwoman Brownson had her hand up.
I do.
Oh, yes, she
Councilmember
was
Brownson.
first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question was, when you calculated the 44,000, you calculated leaving it there for a year. So if you using the general fund money, we can't leave it there for a year. You can only put what's extra over there, so we may not ever be able to put and leave $1 million there. Is that correct?
Yeah, depending on how cash flows are. So like right now, the town's probably got $1.5 million in cash. We
Mm-hmm.
need about 200 of that for operations every month. So we
Mm-hmm.
put 200 over in the operating account to pay payroll, to pay vendor bills, and we put 1.3 over there at interest. That
Mm-hmm.
1.3 will trickle down. Like when we get into September, we're using a lot of our cash because we're waiting for the next round of property taxes to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying average over the year, I'm guessing at a million, might be 900,000, but it's somewhere thereabouts is what
But
we could keep on deposit year round.
right. So, but it will go in and out, in and out. I mean, it's not because the way I understood you to calculate the interest would be leaving it there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to go in and out. It's because we're going to be moving it to keep as little in our regular checking as we can.
Yeah.
If I could chime in, what I'm hearing is that the majority of the funds will be kept in the account. So the higher balance would be in the account generally. The lower balance would be kept in the operating fund, which is not invested to pay expenses and payroll. So the majority of the funds throughout the year would stay in the account that's interest bearing. And the funds that would be coming out would be operational, but that's a smaller amount. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Okay. Councilmember Noble.
Yes. And I understand that part. I guess my concern is the town's exposure to opening other accounts, because I think the better way to present it could have been if we looked at the prior year and just say, we had $1 million extra here. And if we looked at a 12-month spread, then you could kind of see, because we always need money to move from one place to the other. I appreciate other means to find other ways to make money, especially in this investment. But my greatest concern is just having accounts opened in various financial institutions or financial programs, right? So that's it.
Well, I think that Mr. Frankenfield, did you give us an example of what the prior year would have generated based on the cash flow?
Yeah, so I assume we had more cash last year. So I assumed we would have had 1.5 million to invest all year long last year. And rates were a little bit better last year. So I assume we could have got 5% on our money, which would have been 75 grand in interest. That had we had a product that paid interest, we lost out on.
Okay. I see Councilmember Littles.
Sorry, I have my iPad. Just wanted to be clear if there were any risk associated with doing this, and if so, could you explain them?
So there are risks with any investments. Now, this is a blanket state program. So there's state law that municipalities aren't allowed to put their cash in anything that isn't insured. So if a bank goes under, the municipality is made whole. This is the other option that's allowable by state code. I'm not saying there's not risk. I'm not qualified to quantify it, but I have, 3 or 4 other clients that use it and had great return on their extra savings over the past year. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Council President, Councilmember Brownson, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my question is, you said we had like a million and some dollars in cash last year that we can move. I thought we were short on funds last year and we had to cut things. I mean, I thought we were, almost in the hole, in the blue. So I'm trying to figure out how do we have all this cash on hand all the time that we can just put out there when we can't fully staff the police
Yeah.
department, for instance.
I think so. Like the example to use is we started fiscal year 24 with $1.8 million and we ended with $1.3 million. And that decline was because our budget was so significant and our revenues weren't backing it up. So we could kind of feel that, and we adopted our spending policies and we tightened. But yeah, we started with 1.8 at the beginning of 24 and ended with 1.3.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. Council President McDonald.
So right now, Mr. Frankenfeld, we're playing it safe based on how the money is being vested right now, which means that there's a low risk, but there's no revenue. There's no diversification in us getting any return.
That's correct. It's 100% insured, but there's no interest earnings on the
So,
cash.
right. So we're playing it safe. And I think going back to what Council Little was saying in terms of the risk, you stated that Maryland insurance requires that we get all of our money back if there was to be an unforeseen, I guess, financial situation that we would find ourselves in, that we wouldn't lose any money.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
you also said that there are other municipalities that is using the same product and they have seen returns on investment.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Councilmember Noel, did you have another question?
Yes. Yes. The other question with the risk factor, is it insured up to a certain dollar amount? Or if we had $1 million and it just sat there and for some unforeseen reason, we wouldn't lose that $1 million. We may not get any interest. So that's what I'm trying to see. Is there a limit on that? Like in the banking, up to 100,000, 200,000, that's it. If you have anything over that, it's gone. So bad, too bad. Sorry.
Yeah. So there's no FDIC insurance on this product. So that's the risk that there is. At the bank, you're 100% safe
Right.
because it's collateralized above that 250. So the town buys this insurance policy that if TD Bank goes under, the town gets made whole. You
Right.
don't have that. You don't have that FDIC insurance with this product.
But is there, okay, so again, is there a limit on the amount, or it doesn't matter?
No. Yeah. So there's
Well, we
zero
put this
insurance.
$1 million.
Right.
So,
Okay.
just for clarity, there is a stopgap or there is not. In a scenario where the fund is wiped out, you're covered or you're not covered. That's, I think, the question. You're not covered.
You're not covered. Zero coverage.
Okay.
Because I guess, well, that's no more comments on that. Thank you.
Okay. Just point of clarity. So what does then, Mayor Lilly, forgive me, may I
Yes,
ask?
Council President, go ahead.
So tell me, Mr. Frankenfeld, what does the Maryland insurance offer? What if in a financial situation, what does Maryland insurance offer?
So if our money's at TD Bank, let's say we got 1.5. If there's a financial crisis, all of our money's collateralized. If TD Bank goes under, the town gets back its 1.5. With new product, if we have $500,000 at TD Bank and $1 million in new product, if both banks go under, the town only gets back the TD Bank money. and the money in the new product isn't insured.
Okay. And the new and define for me, Mr. Frankenfield, the new product.
The MGLIP.
Oh, the MGLP. Okay.
Yeah, local investment government pool.
Yeah, that's what you explained to us at the finance committee meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question.
Yeah, Councilmember Kennedy.
So have we, okay, so I know we're limited to where we can put monies. Have we checked into possibly doing CDs for a year, giving out a lower amount?
Yes. So from my experience, CDs aren't insured. So I would need to confirm with TD Bank. We got CD pricing. They'd give us 4% to tie it up for a year. I didn't ask the insurance question though.
Okay, because that's why I stated also at a lower amount, because obviously we wanted the higher amount at the 4.4, because then we would get more return on investment.
Yeah.
But if you do a CD, you get penalized if you take it out sooner than a year. So if we did, let's say, even if we did, let's say, two different ones for 200,000 a piece, you'd still get that percentage, but at a off of a lower amount, which would yield a lower return on investment.
Yep.
But if it's still safe, then at least we're investing something, as opposed to, I think the main point of what you were saying is we lost out on potentially 4% of at least 1.5 last year.
That's correct. Yep.
And Mr. Frankenfield, is there a product that TD offered that would give us, maybe it's not going to be 4%, but is it like in the 3 to 3.75 range that will allow us some flexibility to move the cash and also offer the protection? Because I think we might be interested in a slightly lower rate if we have protection and if it also gives us flexibility to move the cash.
Yeah, let me go back to the rep because I'm not certain.
Okay.
And is there a reason that we're only talking about TD as opposed to the other banks that are around?
The interest rate is the same.
And the success.
Just one moment. The TD Bank discussion started because we have our funds there currently. I don't know if we've explored other banks as competitors. If council wishes to do that, that's an option. We can look the information up and bring it back. Councilmember Noble?
Yes. So the banks, they have a rate sheet. So basically they're all going to be about the same. And the reason I guess I was concerned with TD Bank is because we're banking with TD Bank as opposed to having exposure at other banks. And the question I would have for the rep is the insured amount on the town of Forest Heights? So say, is there a limit to what it will insure for the town of Forest Heights? Like on an individual account, if for FDIC, if I have 250 here, 250 there, I'm only going to get 250, right? If I have them all over the world, not the world, the country, I'm only going to get 250 if something goes wrong. So I guess that's my question is, what is the limit on the town of Forest Heights?
So my understanding is in their savings account, cash account, we're collateralized up to whatever we have. So if we have two, we're collateralized, which is where that's that insurance that kicks in after FDIC insurance. That's in a cash product. I'm not certain how CDs work, if they'll only insure us up to 250 or they won't offer collateral on CDs. I'm not certain about that. I got to talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's no further discussion based on what we've discussed so far. I think that we need to explore some other options. So I don't think we're going to be moving the legislation forward as far as it being MGLIP. Maybe we'll move it forward as a bank product with either our existing bank or another bank. So I will move that we lay on the table this legislation, and we're not going to bring it back. I move that we lay on the table this legislation, which is Resolution 06-25. Is there a second?
What was the number again?
06
04. I thought. Am I looking at the right?
04-25. My apologies.
Okay.
I move that we lay on the table motion Resolution 04-25.
I guess I'm trying, point of clarity. Are we postponing it or we're tabling it? Or I'm just trying to get clarity, Mayor.
We're laying it on the table, meaning we're not going to bring it back. This is going to die.
Oh, we're not bringing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the discussion, we had a discussion and you're proposing that we just,
We're going to need to scrap it because we're going to bring back a different product. It's going to be a bank product. It won't be the MGLIP. So a lot of the information in the resolution will not apply and it'll need to be rewritten. So we'll need new details, new bank, new rates. It'll be different than what it is now.
okay, but I think also the questions that we had to Mr. Frankenfeld should probably be considered in terms of just getting the answer to those questions. Because we're going to have the same questions again if we go, like Council Noble said, some of these banks, they have rate sheets. And so, where we go, it's probably pretty much it's going to be the same. And I'm just reiterating what she said, but we still want to have Mr. Frankenfeld to answer the several questions that we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I agree. The questions will be answered and issues will be addressed, but it won't be as part of this particular resolution. Mr. Best.
I would advise against tabling the resolution, except for a date certain. The General Assembly put together the Maryland Local Government Investment Pool for a reason, and it was very conservative about it. And it's used by numerous local governments, including the Park and Planning Commission and county governments, special taxing districts, to think that it's not a viable investment pool is just wrong. So I would advise that you table it, maybe do a little more research to find out about the collateralization of that investment fund, but I wouldn't table it completely or throw the baby out with the bathwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Well, we haven't had a vote on, or I don't think we've had a second on the motion, so I'll withdraw the motion and instead submit that we postpone the resolution 04-25 indefinitely. We can come back and add a later date. It can come back on the agenda at a later date that's not determined at this time. Is there a second?
Is that a motion?
Yes,
Okay.
Is there a second?
Well, Council Noble, I'm sorry, Mayor. Council
I'm
Noble
going to open it up I'll open it up for discussion before we do the all in favor.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we postpone resolution 04-25 until a date in the future. Is there discussion? Councilmember Noble?
Yes. A date in the future, but can we not say so much in the future, but maybe by the next work session? Is that enough time to get those responses to the questions we had? Because we don't want it so far out in the future and we're and I guess I had another question in reference to that. We can invest here in this plan, but can we also uninvest, anytime we feel like it? So I guess that's the other question.
Well, let's do this. At this time, we can answer the question about what the date in the future can be. And then when the resolution comes back, it'll come back with the answer and we'll have some more discussion before we consider passing. So Mr. Frankenfield, what's the reasonable time limit to bring the information back and to reconsider the resolution?
I mean, I think we can get an answer from TD Bank this week. If we go out to somebody else, then that's where we need a connection. We need to make who we're talking to, what we're talking to. So, I mean, I think we can come back with TD Bank products beginning of next week. And the other option, Mayor, is we can consider passing it get it in place, and take some of the town's risk away from it. You know, if the pushback here is the risk, we can pass it, put the cash over there, go research other products, and then if it takes us 2 months to come up with our perfect product, we can pull it back too. Just throwing that out there as an idea. Because we're losing out on the interest rate market is what I think about.
Okay. So we have Councilmember Noble.
I'm sorry. I agree with we're missing out, but we've been missing out. So, I mean, I don't want us to rush and pass something for the sake of, you know, if next week we get all the answers or whatever, then, you know, then push come to shove, we could pass it in the work session if necessary. So that's just a couple of weeks away, right? I don't want us, in reference to finances and money and the town's risks, I don't want us to just arbitrarily pass it for the sake of time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble and Mr. Frankenfield. So we've got a motion on the floor to postpone to a date in the future, which would be the next meeting, for information on TD Bank. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We will revisit this resolution at the next monthly meeting on March 3rd, 2025. And we'll also requesting the information comes back related to council's questions around the product and alternatives. Next, we will move into Resolution 02-25. This is a resolution to amend Resolution 01-23, approving a merit system pay scales for the town of Forest Heights general government employees and sworn personnel by capping the pay scale, and making other certain changes. This resolution is back for another reading. It's come before the council, I believe, 2 times previously. Is there a motion to adopt on this resolution, or do we want to discuss for tonight? I saw someone come off of mute. I didn't hear. Is there a desire? Is there someone who's wanting to move that we adopt, or is this going to be solely for discussion with the recent changes? Councilmember Brownson.
Yeah, I thought in our last meeting, we talked about in this work session, and we were going to try to have the merit salary schedule kind of look like the sworn officer's salary with, you know, positions and things like that. I thought that what was coming back. This is coming back the same way it was when we had the discussion during our work session.
Okay, so with that, let's discuss this. We won't vote on this tonight. And if we could get from either Chief Reese or the appropriate person an overview of if any changes have happened, or if we need to still have the documentation list the positions versus just the scales.
If you will, Mr. Mayor, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I can come off the video, but I'm still in town. I'm in my vehicle. But for the resolution, so for the admin side, it's kind of hard to put positions because some employees may have the same rank and grade. I'm sorry, grade and step as another employee that has another position. So just to give you an example, so if the clerk comes in at step 9, at step 2, but the town administrator is that same step, you know, we can just reference the grade. It's just the sheet is only a reference point. So you want to actually put positions in there. It's kind of hard to actually put it down as positions because you tie us down, say, for example, of a reference sheet, if the town wants to create a position in the future, it can't reference anything. We would have to add it to the chart, which has already been approved. So rather than putting somebody in a specific rate or grade, it's not specific, it's giving us a range, options, not actually putting somebody's down in it. So that would be my only suggestion because it would tie us in to something that would have to come back to council. With the chart that you have now, it gives you a lot of leeway and options to pick from rather than tying somebody down with an actual position. Um, that would be my only thing. If I'm understanding it correctly, Mayor.
Oh, well, I'm looking at the sheet. The new updated rate sheet only it has grades 1 through 13, and they stop at step 10. I know previously they went up to step 20, so now they stop at step 10.
Correct.
Okay, that was one of the other changes that's happened since the
Yeah.
last meeting. I'll go to Councilmember Brownson. I see there's a question.
I just didn't lower my hand from the previous question.
Okay. Well, did Chief Reese's reply answer your question that you had when we were considering whether to vote or discuss?
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what is the purpose of this pay scale when it was mentioned that we can't maintain these salaries. I'm just trying to. It's just our budget can't maintain these salaries according to the previous town administrator. So that's why I was trying to get something. Because if we pass the resolution, then does that mean that we have to abide by this pay scale when we hire someone?
Well, the pay scale sheet that we have used to have 20 steps, now it only has 10. So effectively, it will be a reduction in what's allowable. But there's a range, and the council still has to approve it. So we don't have to pay at the high of the scale. It reduces the number of steps that we will make recommendations for council to approve at, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry. One of the examples I was talking about when you advertised the position for a town administrator. And you had, I think on the thing that MML had 87 to 125 or something. Okay, so where would this person be starting at 87? I just can't see the correlation is what I'm confused about.
It would be in one of the lower steps that has that range.
There's no 87 on here for
Mayor,
step one.
I can answer that if you will, Mayor.
Yes, Chief, please.
So, Councilwoman Brownson, I do understand what you're asking. That is, so remember, since this is already passed, what should have been done was we should have referenced the sheet, and that would have answered the question. So we should have went back to as a reference to the pay chart and put it whatever we need to put the town administrator salary in there. We should have included that and referenced the pay chart. That's why it's always it's good to have it as a reference. What we did was just kind of ad hoc it and just say, hey, we're going to pick 87 to 25, which it went against what was already passed. So that's why we need to have a reference sheet so we can kind of have it as a guide, if you understand it. That would be my suggestion. Like for the current talent administration position that we are advertising now, we need to reference the pay chart and advertise that rather than just a regular, so we can always go back as a reference, not just something that we just made up. That's the point of it. And that's why it's so much of a range on there. Because whatever situation we may be in the future, we can always go back to the chart and say, hey, this is what it is. Of course, we're not going to bring somebody in at step 13 at step 10, but it gives us a range of what might happen. So
Let
we
me
won't have
chime
to
in.
keep coming back.
Let me chime in on the town administrator salary. The pay scales were referenced, so it wasn't ad hoc. The reason why on the top end the pay scale is a little higher is because we gave ourselves the option, if we found a well-qualified candidate to be competitive, we have the option to adjust the budget and include an additional range for negotiation. Now that doesn't have to happen, but it is possible. So the council gave themselves flexibility on setting the range to recruit.
One, Mayor, it had a starting salary at 87 on the one that was advertised in MML, and up to a range, which is, you're correct. But it had a starting salary at 87, and that's why I said I can't see 87 in this chart at a step 1, 2, or 3 for a position.
In grade 11, I believe the starting salary is 88.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you had 87. So, where is this person, if you start them at the minimum, where would they start on this chart? So that was my confusion. It just doesn't, and I understand what they did with the town clerk. They used the chart and the scale, stuff like that. So that's why I was asking the question about when you advertise this new position, you should start with the scale or some reference point, not, I don't know. So that was my.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. I'm sorry, Councilmember Brownson, my apologies. Councilmember Noble, your hand is raised. That's why I said your name. I'll go to you now to provide
that's
comment.
nice. Yes, I'll take that. I guess I go back to, we had a budget that listed every position. And even if we're going with ranges, it's still, so let's say a town administrator could be grade 11 through 13, right? I mean, because we sort of kind of know who holds what positions. So that's what I'm trying to figure. I mean, because another administration, government can change it. So it's not that it's so set in stone. So I don't know why we can't, like the police department, why we just can't reference those positions to make it clear to me. Well, not to me, to anybody else who may be looking at it.
Well, let me ask this question. Is this a matter of adjusting salaries of the positions? Now, the scale and the budget are two different things. So the scale allows us to select a range for where we can place people. The budget passes what we are going to pay them in that given year. So in order to exceed that, a change has got to happen, like a budget amendment. So even if we have a scale that has a different range, we can't place someone there unless it's in the budget. So it's like, this is a reference document, and what it's doing is, in the most recent form, we had 20 steps, and that was what we had approved in fiscal year in January of 23. Right now, what we're doing is we're trying to bring it back. So we're taking steps over 10. So steps 11 through 20 are being taken out, and we're going down to step 10 as our top. So it's a reduction in the range that we can select from. The budget is the document where the salaries get set for each fiscal year. So I just want to point out that and illustrate that for some council members who have questions. This is reducing the range that we can choose from, taking into account our fiscal responsibility. The budget is where we'll make the decision about what each person is actually earning. And then when we bring on new staff members, the resolution will have what their step level is and their grade. That's got to be approved. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but when you say fiscal responsibility, for me, you could go down to step 5, because at step 5, the salaries are still high. You know what I mean? So I understand so in the budget, we're going to see everybody's salary. So,
Correct. Correct. Yeah. We do. We see them currently. And even for those to change, even once this range is adopted, or A range sheet is adopted. In order for pay to change, a resolution's got to come forward because the budget has to change. So, Council President McDonald.
Yes, thank you. So I think the last meeting, I brought up the concern about job classification and how we were classifying these jobs, right? So because we have opportunities, say in the police department, where people are doing similar work because they have similar skills and responsibilities, which at the end determines how we rank and organize the roles and ensure the pay, right? We can't say based on a budget, this person is going to get paid X, Y, and Z. It has to be based on a system. So when we're looking at our handbook, like we've been talking about, trying to update that, these are the kinds of things that we want to incorporate into our update so that we're operating from a system. I think that's what Council Brownson was speaking to as well. And making sure that we have a system that flows. We want to make sure that we're hiring quality candidates and be able to pay them comparably. Thanks.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. I might offer, based on the conversation we're hearing here, and based on the fact that we are in the process of hiring a town administrator, it seems like we may want to revisit this once we have that role filled, and we can go through and task the town administrator with developing a comprehensive plan, reviewing the salaries, and making sure that the positions we're offering for that are new place people and list their compensation based on the scale, so we can do it in a comprehensive manner. I think it may not serve us well to try to update this now because we really need a little bit more in-depth
Exactly.
research, and then we can do a comprehensive change once that takes into account all of the issues that we're seeing that are there. So when we get the scale, we'll have everyone placed in them. We'll know what system we're using. We'll also have a system for increasing people if we have extra funds and we project extra revenue to be able to do that. So we'll be able to let the person who's going to be the chief administrative officer bring that structure when they arrive, when we appoint them.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Brownson.
I remember one time that when the police department was trying to get into the retirement system, and it was brought up that they needed a pay scale that's been approved, and for that to be into the for them to get into the that retirement system. Is that still the case?
Well, the retirement legislation, we have an update from that. Our chief is going to give later this evening. But to answer the question.
Okay.
Chief Reese, did you want to answer that now, or did we want to address that later in an update on the retirement issue?
That's the only reason I thought we were dealing with this at this time, because other than that, it would make sense for the new town administrator to work on this comprehensively.
Just so we can, I can address that later, Mayor. But
Okay.
time is not of the essence to answer your question, Councilwoman Brownson.
Excellent, thank you.
We don't need to.
Yeah, and to your question, Councilmember Brownson, we adopted a pay scale in 23 or in January of 2023. So we do have one that's adopted currently. So we don't have to adopt this just for the retirement plan. But thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll offer a motion to reconsider the adjustment of a pay scale in this resolution, and after we've appointed a permanent town administrator. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay.
There's some internet issues.
Are we good? We're recording? Okay.
Yes, and I second it.
All right, it has been moved and seconded that we postpone this resolution, which is resolution 02-25 until Town of Forest Heights has appointed a permanent town administrator. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Motion passes. All right, next we move to Resolution 03-25. This is a resolution to approve a proposal and award a contract for auditing services for the Town of Forest Heights for the fiscal year ending in 2024 to Lindsay and Associates LLC to perform the year ending June 30th, 2024 audit of the town's financial records and prepare the financial statement for the town for said fiscal year. I move that we adopt Resolution 03-25. Is there a second?
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 03-25. And before we go to, we're in discussion. Before we get questions, we had a presentation from Lindsay and Associates at our last town meeting. And discussion now open. And Chief Reese just posted the resolution.
Question.
Let me go to Councilmember Noble, and then I'll come to you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Noble.
Thank you. My question, I guess, you or Mr. Frankenfield, when will Mr. DeSalvo, do we have an update on how much or what is he 50% finished, 75% finished, or 100%?
So latest correspondence is he promises the end of the month, the end of February. And I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I think we're at 50% would be my fair estimate. I still think we're on track for March 31st. But the latest communication was end of this month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy.
Where did we hear about this particular company?
We said, where did we hear about it? It was a suggestion from Mr. Frankenfield.
Yeah, and Councilmember Kennedy, I work with them at probably 4 out of 5 of my other municipalities. So very familiar with their team, their pace, their professionalism. It's a firm that 90% of what they do is municipal government audits. So they know it, they know our business model, they know how to get in and out, which is, I think, what we're struggling with now sometimes. So I've worked with them 10 years, very supportive of their firm.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, my question is that, and I asked this during his presentation, are there, drop dead dates? Are there penalties for not delivering what they said they were going to be deliver? And with Mr. DeSalvo, you said you take that with a grain of salt. So are we penalizing these individuals that we do a contract with and they don't deliver when they say they're going to deliver? I think that should be some penalties there. We just can't keep giving our money to contractors and they give us what they want us to have. There should be some deadlines, some penalties in these contracts.
Well, as it stands, there's no penalties in the resolution. I think the reason for that is because the burden of deadlines is a shared responsibility. The town has to provide information, then the auditor has to review it, then the town has to provide information, the auditor has to review it. I won't say that it can't happen, because anything is possible, but I don't know of a model of doing that.
Well, the town is an individual. So if the treasurer is supposed to provide information to him, don't get, he should be penalized. If it's the clerk, she should be penalized. Everybody that's responsible for doing their job and don't deliver on time should have some type of consequences. because we can't keep just giving our money away and it just doesn't, and getting, I said services that not to the level we expect.
Well, I would say we have prioritized completing the audits that are past due, as well as completing this year's audits on time, is something that's been highlighted for staff that support the audit. So,
Mr. Frankenfield, want to say something?
Mr. Frankenfield.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we're well within our timelines on the 23 audit. We've always talked about March 31st, March 31st, March 31st. I was challenging the assumption that it was going to be February 28th, but we're well within ability to close it out in the next 6 weeks by March 31st, just to clarify on timing and deliverables.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. Council President McDonald.
Yeah, so when I read through this document, Mr. Frankenfield from Lindsay and Associates, is that who we were talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's several responsibilities that all parties play, right? And the auditors, they're limited in their role in terms of the research that goes into this. So to Council Brownson's point, whatever role we play in terms of producing documents or finding the information to give to the auditors, we need to be doing that. We all need to be holding ourselves accountable to the role and responsibility that we play in this partnership. They're actually service providers helping us to, get our audits up to par. So I don't know who identifies who does what, but that's a key role, a key part rather, in us being able to get this done. We are, with what we have on our moving forward in the town, our audits need to be done. And we are all on the same page with that because of the kinds of things that we've talked about in terms of the town and moving forward. So whatever we got to do, let's try to do it, but then also understand the limitations that the auditors have as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Is there any further discussion on Resolution 03-25? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Noble,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Brownson,
Yes.
Councilmember Little,
Yes.
Councilmember McDonald,
Yes.
Mayor Lilly,
Yes. And Madam Clerk, if you could just state the vote count and the result.
yes, forgive me. 6 yeses, the vote was unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, next on our agenda, we're going to go to the item that was under consent, Resolution 06-25. This is a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the Town of Forest Heights, Maryland, accepting and approving an award agreement and grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust for the community garden. I will offer and then entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 06-25.
I move that we adopt 06-25.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 06-25. Discussion. Mr. O'Connor, who works on grants, is not here today to provide an overview of the grant. But in summary, this grant will support initiatives aimed at increasing the forest canopy, reducing stormwater runoff, improving air quality, and enhancing urban life, particularly important for the sustainability in our community. This resolution helps both the environment and quality of life in Forest Heights through strategic use of grant funding, enhancing the town's green infrastructure. The funding from the Chesapeake Bay Trust will support the development and maintenance of a community garden, contributing to local beautification and promoting environmental stewardship. The town will receive $9,500 or $9,500 in-kind matching grant to fund specific greening initiatives, reducing the financial burden to the town. This resolution allows for some flexibility in the budget allocation, up to 10% between categories, to ensure the project can adapt to changing needs while staying within the agreed upon terms. And the grant has a 1-year duration from January 2025 to January 2026, which aligns with the long-term environmental and community development objectives for the town and creates a foundation for future green initiatives. Is there any discussion on Resolution 06-25? I see 2 hands up. I was reading the resolution, so I'm not sure whose hand was first. If one could come off mute and let me know, either Councilmember Brownson or Noble.
Noble can go first.
All right, Councilmember Noble.
No,
floor is yours.
go. No, let her go. I was still on mute.
Okay, my question is, and I'm glad they have, the in-kind matching grant. So so which means that we have to match the $9,500 in kind. And I looked at the budget and it says the in kind is Denny House. So is Denny House going to provide free service to us at a tune of $9,500?
Chief, could you provide a little further insight on the matching portion of the grant if you're familiar?
Mr. Mayor, if you just give me a brief moment, I get that answer for you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, sir. All right, I will go to, in the meantime, Councilmember Noble.
Oh, I guess I was just checking that the submission date, I guess the first payment is contingent upon receipt of these signed agreement. So have we, well, we know we don't have the signed agreement, but have we done the other parts? The site plan,
I will defer. I believe we've done that, but I don't want to confirm. I believe we've already done the additional pieces. Give me just a moment. We have.
Mr. Mayor, I did get a clarification on that. So for the in-kind portion of the grant, it is staff time, which we would have to calculate. That is like when DPW is down there, setting the beds up, the trash removal, any things that we have to do to support the community garden. That will be the in-kind portion. So it will probably be imperative that if this grant is accepted, that we, keep a close eye on what duties that we're doing down there when as far as like staff time is using their hourly service, and to make sure that we are being appropriate with the grant.
Well, my question is, I'm looking at the budget,
Just a moment, Councilmember Brownson. So that was to answer the in-kind donation. It's staff services, and then we'll need to track the behavior of we will need to track the employee's time that's dedicated to the grant funded work. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor. On the back sheet it says in-kind match not, and it's got Denny House. That was my question.
Okay, so your question is if the employee contribution or the staff contribution is going to be I'm sorry, if there's going to be a financial contribution from Denny House or a waiver of their charges for a certain portion of the work that's done.
No, it's about the application budget worksheet that's on the last page. And it has in-kind match 950. And it's got source of in-kind match Denny House.
And
Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
well, I don't have the answer to that, so we're going to go to Mr. Frankenfield if he can provide some further insight.
yes, so reading this budget, Mayor, Denny House has already been paid in this fiscal year. So we're saying the town's gonna match 9,500 in spending from Denny House, and the in hand means that we already spent it. So we've already met the match per this budget document.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. Councilmember Brownson, does that answer your question?
And that's my question, but what he said but if the budget starts on 125, how can they already have met that?
And I think we can discuss it with our program manager. You know, we disclosed it to him. We said it's in hand. To me, that means it already happened. So I think we've been transparent on our budget application. I hear your concern, but I feel like we've disclosed that.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. Is there any further discussion on Resolution 06-25? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Noble,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Brownson,
Yes, we never turn down money.
Councilmember Little,
Yes.
Member McDonald,
Yes.
Mayor Lilly,
Yes, yes.
6 yeses. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That concludes our legislation for this evening. Next, we'll move into new business. And there are just a couple items I wanted to mention quickly, and then I'll open the floor from council. There's also some information we'll need to provide to you that's been updated recently since the agenda was published. And so we have newsletter committee. Those solicitations are formally open. If you're a member of the community and you have time and would like to volunteer for the newsletter committee, we invite you to send your interest to townclerk@forestheightsmd.gov. As we move into this fiscal year, we're looking to make sure that the newsletter addresses the needs of the community. We want to attract input from different members with different experiences so that the document that goes out each month represents the residents' needs. Next, we have the community engagement team. This is a group that will be standing up of residents as well, and they will be tasked with helping us to get residents to sign up for information in the town, the newsletter, the text alerts, our constant contact email list, but they will also be helping to explore the possibility of the town doing something that we've talked about in a recent meeting, which is having some regular Saturday programming within the town that brings together residents, local businesses, and faith-based communities so that we can share services, learn about what we each are offering, and enjoy cultural, musical, and artistic enrichment on a regular basis during the warmer months of the year. So since our staff is really taxed with providing services to residents day to day, we are going to form a team that includes residents and some other team members in the community to help us explore putting that programming on. And hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of the warmer months, which are just a couple of months away. Once the team is formalized, we'll introduce them and we will announce what the first events will be, and we'll keep council and community updated about when those are formalized. Last item that I have, and then I'll open it up, is the retirement program that we have been pursuing, or that we have been investigating with the state. We got back some initial numbers from that, and I wanted to open it up to Chief Reese and Mr. Frankenfield just to provide some update to council on the financial impact and some of the options we may have now that we have the information. I'm sorry, I see Councilmember Bronson's hand up.
Oh,
Was
I
that
was,
in
no, it was gonna be, I want to add some new business, but
Okay.
I'll wait till after that.
All right, thank you. Chief Reese, could
Yes,
you go
sir.
first on updating council about the legislation surrounding the retirement plan and the decisions that we'll need to make at this point?
Absolutely. I'm just going to give you a note slate. So as you know, we did a census for the entire town that is all employees, that includes you all as well. For the state retirement, there's two plans that we are interested in, which is the employee plan, and then the law enforcement officer pension plan. That is the two plans that are offered for the Maryland State Retirement System. Once we sent our census in, that the census includes when did the person actually start with the town of Forest Heights. And so once we gave them all the information, they they come up with a figure on making that employee whole, as two options: 100% or 50%. Obviously 100% of the time they've been with the town, or 50% of the time that they've been with the town. Those are clearly the two options that we have to make. So just to also kind of give you an update. So when we started this program, our initial time was we wanted to start it in July 1st of this year. So that kind of put us against the clock. So to have multiple options, what we did was we had legislation introduced in Annapolis, just in case, if the town, because when we got our actuaries back, general session has already started, so we can't introduce anything anymore. So what we're doing is, we got it back, we got the numbers back preliminarily. We've been reviewing them, and there's a cost associated with it, that the town, if they decide to go with the 50% or 100%, they have to pay that back over a period of time, which I believe is the 25-year term. I want to stop there, and because we get ready to get into finances, I want Mr. Frankenfield to chime in just to kind of give you an overview of where we're at now.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Mayor and Council, the old ITA had started this project and reached out to Maryland State Retirement, and we got these two proposals that summarize the cost of the program. We had questions on it. I called the rep from Maryland State today just to make sure I understood all the moving parts to be able to give you feedback on what the costs of the program is. So I'll get right to the numbers. I'm in support of the program. It's expensive before we get into the numbers, but I think your employee retention will triple once your team sees that, hey, I've got a pension at the end of this journey. So all that being said, annual contribution, the state's going to give us a discount. Our staff's pretty young, so we get paid, we're supposed to kick in 400 grand a year based on budgeted salaries for fiscal year 26. The state's going to give us a credit that gets down to $277,000 a year. So roughly, just for comparison purposes, that's 20% of salaries. If you'll remember back in the Mission Square days, we're kicking in 6. So there's a significant increase. It's a better plan. It costs more. So where it stands now is initial enrollment wouldn't be for our upcoming budget cycle. It would be for fiscal year 27, so 7/1/26, everyone is eligible for the plan, and it's at a cost of $277,000. We can do it. We're going to have to trim. I don't have an answer on where we trim. I don't think there's an opportunity for much more in revenue. We've been down the, do we raise taxes or sell the building? We've explored those options. We can afford it, but we're going to have to trim to make this program work. And I'll leave it there. The one thing, the other piece that I didn't address is the chief has been in conversations with the town staff about the 457 plan. Currently, there's about $440,000 in the 457 plan. And we've explored it with the town attorney that if the employees sign it over to us, we can recoup our contributions over the years. And I haven't audited the plan. There might still be retired participants that are in that 440. So I don't know that that 440 is all eligible. And again, it's subject to the market, so it moves. So let's just say for conversation purposes, $400,000 of that balance is available and it's current employees. Our plan is to ask the employees to sign it over to us. They forfeit their right to it. And then we've got 27's payment in the bank and then half of 28's payment. So there's options there. We can make it work. It does have a cost to it. And then I'll yield there.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. And I would just say to council that earlier today I had the team to work up a draft sheet that will help to illustrate some of these numbers. I know there's a lot of numbers that came out. So we will have a document that will be sent out and that will be public information about the cost, breaking it down by year, the total cost over a span of time, the initial cost for this coming year's budget, and et cetera. And I will go to Councilmember Noble. See your hand.
You may go to the attorney. He may answer the question.
Mr. Best, I see your hand as well. Thank you.
All right. Todd mentioned my name and an opinion. So I want to clarify that because I think there was something lost in the translation. Basically, the question posed to me is what can be done with the current 457 funds of the employees to transfer into the state retirement system? And my concern was ERISA, whether it would violate ERISA. And then there's another statute on the federal level called EGTRA, Economic Growth and Tax Relief Reconciliation Act of 2001. ERISA does not apply to a 457. It applies to other type, like 401ks and other retirement plans, but not to local government 457 plans. So that's out. So because this is a very specific area of law, and I'm a municipal attorney, a generalist, I opine that it probably can, if the employees sign off on an agreement to transfer the monies to the pension system for the state. But I also, here's the big point I'm trying to make, need to check with the administrator at the pension system. If they concur with this source of monies, then it's probably okay, because they have attorney general, assistant attorney generals. They have a platoon of lawyers that are involved with pension systems. So if they concur, then move on. And I suggest that you get some sort of assurance, either an email or a document or a memo or a letter from the state system saying that's okay, giving a thumbs up. So I wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beth, for adding that additional insight. I'll give it back to Mr. Frankenfield. I think you have some. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to clarify, Mr. Best, we would pass from 457 back to town. Town makes payment to state. So the town would recoup its contributions, and then it's the town's funds to pay the state. So just to clarify how it's been teed up to us.
But my comment still stands. That arrangement should be fully disclosed because you can have a contractual relationship with the pension system. It's something you need to disclose with that system.
Thank you both. Councilmember Noble.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Best. Part of my question is, you said the town's portion, but that town's portion is based on if the employees agree. And is it all the employees have to agree, or is it, how do we know that they all have to agree? And what will we do if they don't?
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. I think that was directed at Mr. Frankenfield, or was that Chief Reese?
Yes.
Maybe
One of the two.
maybe Chief's better qualified, but in conversations, Chief felt like the employees want the plan, so they'd be willing to forego the town's contributions and their own contributions to fund it. The employees realize the gain in this product or this retirement plan. It's better than the 457. So I think, and I'll let Chief chime in, but I think they're all on board.
Yes, and that is correct. So with my conversations with the employees, that is the case. They and actually we're telling them we're putting your money into a better plan. And we gave it to them as, hey, the town is willing to at least give you pay back some of the portions of which that you did not have the retirement, and it's kind of a give and take. And the employees actually agreed, that hey, they don't mind doing that. I told them there'll probably be an agreement later for that, but the initial response is yes. And also looking at the numbers now, obviously, we would have to look at two things with it. If the employees are even vested, it takes 3 years to be vested within the town for the 457, and because that's when it actually transfers over to them. So some of our employees doesn't even qualify for that. So I just want to put that out there as well.
Thank you, Chief Reese. I'll go to Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, with the new plan, did you state how much the town will be contributing? Was that going to be 20%? Yep. And before it was 6%? And we couldn't afford the 6%, but we can now go to 20%? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and to clarify, we put the 6 on hold to apply for this plan. It wasn't a budgetary thing. It was, we couldn't have a plan in place to apply.
And I would also add that part of the increase of the percentage that will contribute is because there's a catch-up amount that is fulfilling. Basically, the way it was explained to me by our financial team is that in order for the employees to retire at the end of a 30-year period, they have to have 30 years of pay paid into the system. And so you couldn't go in and transfer to the system where you have an employee with 15 years and they only get 15 years to be paid out. They've got to have a full pension payout at the end of the time that they retire. And so when you transition into the system, the locality in this place, in this instance, it's Forest Heights, has to catch up the funds so that the balance is there so the person can retire at the end of their career or at the end of the service, years that are required in the plan. Is that correct, Mr. Frankenfield?
And we clarified, when I talked to the rep today, that came out today in that conversation, and it's actually the other way. So in my initial conversation, I was like, there's that catch-up premium of the 122. It's actually a credit. So that comes off the top. Apparently our staff is so young that they project, it's an average working life of our staff is 26 years, 25 years. So that's a credit. So if we didn't have the credit, we're paying 400,000 a year. That's coming off the top to get us down to 277. So I misunderstood the paperwork the first conversation we had.
Okay. Well, I guess the question is then how does it get to be 20% if I think the mandatory contribution was 7?
Yeah, so if you math out 400,000 is what our contribution is supposed to be. And then we back out this credit of 140. So 400, 140, we get to 277. Our true cost is 277,000 based on 26 salaries, right? So 27 salaries may go up, may go down. But anyway, we did it based on our budget for 26. That's 277,000. When you divide it by total town salaries, it's 20% of salaries is our new pension cost.
Okay. Is there any further questions around the retirement plan? Okay, if there's no further questions from staff, well, what action does council need to take and how soon based on this actuarial information that we've received?
So, Mr. Mayor, it is the state retirement, it is a time crunch. So they would like to know, and we will have to communicate this to the employees, which way right now will the town like to go? Um, would they like to buy back 50% of the time or 100% of the time? That is the question. So they can continue doing the work, because remember that the actuaries that we're getting, they cost. So we need to know which way the town is going to go with it.
So we need to decide if we're going to move forward with the state retirement or not. And if we do, is it going to be 50% buyback versus 100%?
Correct.
And Todd, in the draft document that I received today, does it outline the difference in cost between 50% buyback versus 100% buyback?
Yeah, I want to clarify that with the chief. Chief, the estimates we got are on the 100% buyback, correct? And we don't
Correct.
have the 50%
We do not have the 50%, because that's an additional. Now these the state uses a third party to get the actuaries costs to the town. Obviously we have to pay for that. So if we would have to pay for that again. They're not cheap. Um so we will have to get into that. So I'm not sure what we want to do.
Okay, thank you, Chief, Mr. Frankenfield. I'll go to Council President McDonald and then Councilmember Noble.
I just had a quick question about employee contributions. Does this plan offer that, Mr. Frankenfield?
Yeah, I believe it's 7 or 8%. So the employee kicks in 7 or 8, and the town kicks in 20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the employee kicks in 7 and the town kicks in 20?
Yeah.
Why is the town's contribution? It's almost what? It's almost triple the contribution. What justifies that?
That's again the state's actuarial study hey, the town, if it's gonna employ, so we talk about there's two different programs. If we talk about the police program, if the town's gonna put 16 officers in the police retirement pool, in 30 years, the town's gotta have, call it $5 million in that pool so that it can pay out for the duration of that officer's pension. And that's just how the math works. And I don't know how the split between the town and the employee works, but we're governed state program. We got to follow their guidelines.
So that's 20%, just a clarity, Mayor, if I may. There's,
Council President McDonald, yes, go ahead.
yeah, thank you. Is that 20%, Mr. Frankenfield, for all of the employee contributions? Or is that each individual the town is paying 20% for?
Correct. Its employer is 20% on all employees.
Individually?
Correct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Noble? Oh, I see, Mr. Best.
Question one, how much does it cost for us to determine the cost for 100% versus 50%? And also, will all employees in this program have to contribute or not? They have to.
Yeah. If you're over 500 hours, you have to be in the state program. There's no, I decline, everybody's in it. Maybe Chief can answer the study. That the numbers I gave you was on the 100%.
Right,
We
right.
don't have the 50%. Maybe Chief can answer the question about how much it costs.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Noble. Chief, can you answer on the cost for determining the 50% buyback versus 100%?
Yes, it will probably be in a range of about 5,000 per per side. So it will be another 5,000 for law enforcement and another 5,000 for employee contribution.
So $10,000 around.
Correct.
Thank you.
I don't know because they do have all of the numbers. They may discount something, but that's what she told me it costs the actuaries.
Thank you, Chief Reese. I'm going to go to Mr. Best and then Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, my question is, I assume there's a pension agreement that the town would enter into. Is that document that will be binding on the town with the state retirement system? Has that been introduced yet? Shared? Distributed?
No, so we're still at the, here's our proposal from the state. And then we're at the crossroad of, are we agreeing to give 100% of prior time or 50% of prior
Gotcha.
time? I think that all the state's policies are online. Like you can go research it, but it's the LEOPS and the ECS program. The administrative and the public works folks would be in the ECS program.
Has
And
there been
there'll
any
be-
documentation, fact sheets, briefs, summaries in writing shared with the mayor and council on this issue?
So there will be, so once they find out which way the town will go, they will provide us a resolution from the state that the town would have to pass. So as far as like the employee package from the pension itself for both plans, we've already the council was already given that.
What I think needs to go to council next is that one document that was shared today. It lists the cost and what the current cost is, what the cost would go to, what it would be over this current fiscal year coming up versus what it would be over the next series of fiscal years. That's more of a rate. It's an in-house document, but it has rates and more detailed data on it. I don't know. I'll ask this to Mr. Frankenfield and Chief Reese. Did we receive a document as part of our conversation with the state that we can pull those numbers from? Is there some kind of rate that they gave us about their actuarial opinion that can be sent to the council and myself, and also to Mr. Best.
Yes, we have the actuary for the 100%. We can share that as well.
Yes, please send that out to council if you could tonight. And as far as, let me go to Councilmember Brownson. My apologies. Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, my question is, I thought they said the town has to pay 20%. But each employee would contribute is voluntary, or is that mandatory?
The contribution from the employee is mandatory.
That's 7%.
Yes, if we enter into the plan, both the town's contribution and the employee's contribution will be mandatory.
Thank you. Also, like I'm kind of with Attorney Best. I don't know about the rest of it. I haven't seen anything that will help me understand this, and I need to be able to digest it. So before I make it.
Well, luckily we're not voting because we don't have any legislation to vote on. But yeah, I've requested from Chief Reese and Mr. Frankenfield that we get a document out to council that shows numbers and charts, and it specifies what the costs are, what they would be for the upcoming fiscal year and for fiscal years down the road, so we can understand the true fiscal impact before we make a decision. I just want to get this question answered again because I'm a little unclear. What do we need to do as a council with the information, and by when, in order to go forward? So if we decide, when is the next deadline for us as a council relating to the retirement?
So, Mr. Mayor, Caitlin sent us an email. I guess they're looking at their deadlines. They would have to know by tomorrow. She gave us the 20th as the deadline that they would have to do their thing.
And so if we can't decide by tomorrow, which is likely, what does that window look like for us entering into the program? Would it be an additional year, like July 2026?
We will probably have to start over again next year. They would have to do another actuary for next year as well.
Interesting. Okay.
And
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Frankenfield.
And Chief, what happens? When's our drop dead date? Like, we can back out of this. I mean, so now all we're agreeing to, let's say we agree tonight, we're agreeing to 100%. There's still another decision as we move through this process, correct? Like, all we're trying to get her an answer on is 50% versus 100%. But we still have we don't have to take the plan out, correct?
There's no, with the decision, they just want to know how to draft the paperwork that's going to be presented to the town. If we tell them 100% to tomorrow, basically that's how they're going to draft the resolutions, and because they have to do a final actuary to get the final numbers. This is a preliminary actuary of where we stand. So the 100%, that's not binding. That's all we're doing is sending them an email saying, hey, listen, we think that we're going to go the 50% route or the 100% route.
Okay, so
there's
an additional item that council and myself will need is, when we first had discussions around the retirement plan, there was a schedule of actions that detailed what each step was. I believe there were 7 steps in total, and what was happening at each step. If we can find out and be informed which step we're at currently, because it listed what was happening and what we were agreeing to at that point. So that will also give us added context to understand where we are in the process, so we can make a decision with as much information as possible. So we can also understand the weight. If this is a decision that's just simply which paperwork are they going to present to us, that's different than if we are now saying yes and we are locked into paying for the program. If we're not at that step yet, that's helpful to know. That will help us be able to digest where we are and to give proper guidance.
I understand, Mayor. I will tonight everything that we have the council would get tonight, everything that we have. And if we need to create a document just to show where we are and what part of the steps, we can provide that as well.
The initial information we received last year in 2024 had the steps listed out. So it's part of whatever original legislation that we passed to do the actuarial and start the process. That resolution will have a document that outlines the steps, and from there we just need a reference point of which one of the steps this one is.
Yes, sir.
So you don't have to recreate anything.
Yes, sir. We'll provide that.
All right. Other items for new business tonight? Are there any other items for new business?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Council Member Brownson.
Yeah, I had gotten an email from Council Hines, and she wanted me to let you all know that for the meet and greet on Sunday, that she had invited some of the businesses in the area to come. She said Mike's Liquor and St. Mark's said that they probably come to the meet and greet on Sunday.
Very nice.
Want to let the council know that.
Thank you, Councilmember Bronson. It's good to hear we'll have some other members of the community as well, in addition to residents, and we're looking forward to that. Is there any other new business at this time? Council President McDonald.
Okay, when is this again on Sunday? At what time? I'm sorry.
2 to 5 p.m.
At the municipal building?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other new business this evening? Okay, hearing none. The time is now 10:22.
Oh, I know. I do. Mayor Lilly, forgive me. I do.
Okay.
Council Noble, be quiet. Not be quiet, but bear with me. I'm sorry. Y'all know at the end of the night, it's almost time for us to go. But one last thing. Is there any reason why we've not gotten any reports or any updates from our youth coordinator? Is he still part of our council here? And what is the status? Do we know?
I will direct that to Chief Reese. I know we have an upcoming meeting on March the 3rd. We are transitioning to a meeting report structure where we'll be putting information on the screen. So similar to the way that we do with the mayor's reports and now the resolutions, we are going to be bringing the reports from staff, putting them in a visual format so they can be displayed on the screen. But to Chief, do you know if we have a recent report, if we'll have one for the March 3rd meeting from Mr. Holland?
Yes, he submitted one last month. It was because he was not at the meeting, and such as like the program manager, they were under the town administrator report. So if you go in board docs, his report is submitted in there under my report.
Okay. I just didn't know. Okay. I'll
Yes.
look.
Well, because there's so much great work that's happening within our departments and our youth and community engagement, I'm requesting that next meeting, March 3rd, we will begin to put the reports on the screen. So then that way, we'll have the highlights that the community will see and the council will see of what was done, what's been accomplished, and we'll continue with that going forward.
Yes, because we also have a youth ride coming up. Forgive me, not a youth ride, but a learn to ride. A learn to ride coming up with the Washington Area Bicycling Association. So I was curious as to what the enrollment was with that. Is the reason why I actually brought that up. Yeah. It was another thing. I can't think of what it was, Mayor Lilly. Yeah, but that's what I really wanted to know. Oh, also, just a last thing, sorry, Councilor Brownson, about the community garden. If you're interested in, renting a bed, please look for information in the newsletter coming up in March. And also, if you're interested or you know of someone who's interested, let them know as well. And then the green team, we're coming up with a meeting very soon to go over some things regarding sustainability. So if you're interested in joining the green team, please let that be known. And Latoya will get your information at the town. Thank you.
Council President, on the Green Team meeting, when you all schedule, if you could include the Potomac River Keepers, because we are wanting to partner with them on cleanups over at Oxen Run, and then also there's resources grants and other items that could support forest sites that we want to make sure we allow them to bring to us if they're possible. So glad to hear Green Team meeting will be coming up soon.
Yeah, so Potomac River Keepers, who's the contact there? Or we can talk about it later, Mayor Lily.
I'll send it to you via email. Mr. Dean, I can't remember his last name, but Mr. Dean works with them and I'll connect you with him.
Okay, thank you. And then also, real quick, did we firm, because remember we were going to get back with WABA, which is the Washington Area Bicycling Association, about the actual time of
we haven't gotten
a time yet? Okay,
no.
cool. All right, thanks.
Councilmember Brownson.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask, I noticed in the last months, we haven't had the department heads give their reports. They haven't shown up for the meetings. Is there a reason why they haven't been showing up, and will they be showing up in the future?
Well, I think we had a few weather incidents that came up recently. But if we have information we can collect from the department heads who don't need to be in person, they may be online, such as Public Works and Youth and Community Engagement. The town administrator, interim town administrator, will always be there. And when we hire a permanent town administrator, we'll have the police chief and the town administrator in person at each of the meetings.
Are you saying they'd either be there in person or virtually?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Where we can, we'll try to let our subordinate staff take the meeting virtually, since their input tends to be limited and that allows them to go home. Town administrator will continue to be there. Chief will be there in person. Thanks for the question, though. Councilmember Noble.
I was just going to add on to that it will be nice that the department heads are available virtually or in person, just for transparency and the community to see. And some may want to thank those department heads as well. So give them an opportunity to get a little praise at the time it's given than to get it when it's passed on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble, and council members. Thank you, community members who have joined tonight. This has been a productive meeting. We thank you for your input. Congratulations to our new Ethics Commission member. And Councilmember Brown, says your hand up again, or is that still from earlier? Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. With that, the time is now 10:28 and this meeting is adjourned. We will see you at the next meeting on March, well, actually Friday, even though it's a closed session. All right. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.